we're gonna work on hip mobility, but adding in some strength, because it doesn't really matter if we're super flexible if we don't have strength in our range of motion. So we have to be balanced in our strength and balanced in our range of motion, and those put together to have some healthy, balanced hips that we can stand on, some strong legs that prop up our spine so that we're not standing on our back, we're standing on our legs. All right, I'm going to use a weight. If you have weights, use them. Pick your amount that feels right for you, and then grab whatever padding that you might need for your knees. Sometimes that's like a really thick cushion and some knee pads. Sometimes it's just a little bit. Sometimes it's nothing. So it just depends on the body. Anything that we do that might be too deep a knee bend, just don't go too deep, right? You're going to start on your hands and knees. Now, if you need to just work on figuring out your hip mobility, check out the links below for just a simple hip hinging, hip mobility exercise that's not like overly stretchy. It's more just about getting your hips moving in all directions. But we're just gonna sort of shorten that or condense it a little bit here with your hands and knees. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. You're thinking, I'm gonna lengthen from head to tail, but I'm not overly tucking or not overly arching, just somewhere in between. So when I press with my arms, I'm hinging in my hips, releasing this hip crease here, letting my sits bones widen, allowing my pubic bone and tailbone to reach back, and then I'm going to pull forward those bones and my pelvis will narrow. And then as I go back, the sits bones widen, the pubic bone reaches back, tail reaches back, pulling forward. One more like that. Breathing and moving. Then we're going to go in a diagonal. So just push from one arm to the opposite hip and center, go in that diagonal 3 times. So we're going to kind of go in a lot of 3s. Keeping my head, my chest, my belly a little active. Go the other direction, rocking. Ooh, that hip's a little tighter. That pelvic floor is a little tighter on that side. And I have a harder time figuring out a pure diagonal. You know, you might find the same. Now I'm going to go in a circle. But I'm not doing like a spinal circle. I'm really trying to keep my belly and my chest and my head nice and light, lifted away from the mat. There is some abdominal engagement. 3 circles. I'm trying to roll in those hip joints and then go the other direction. Moving around, letting my pelvis roll on those femurs, right? That's it. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to come back. And again, don't go into a deep knee bend if that triggers not great feelings in your knee. I'm going to have my weight. I'm going to bring it to my hips here. So I'm not going waist or even chest, but you could. I'm going to stay at my hips, just like I would do if I was bridging on the ground. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the amount that's right for me. So I'm going to go all the way back. You might just go halfway. And then when I come up, I'm really pushing my hip joint into my weight. Now, this size weight is really well oriented to my size hip joint pelvic structure. That is not going to be true for your weight or your hip joint. So just figure out what works for you, right? But the whole goal here is to think I'm moving in that hip joint as I go down and up. We're gonna do 5 of these because I feel like 3 is a little shy, right? And I'm gonna face you now that I've kind of done it to the side. 1 more, and up. Now, when you come up, make sure you're not leaning too far back or too far forward, finding your balance. If you need to open your knees, sometimes we're so tight in the front of the hips, we're to kind of separate the knees a little bit, and that's okay. And then you're gonna see, could you just bring your weight up? So when I bring my weight up, I usually kind of grab that kind of bulbous end. I'm gonna see, could I balance, bringing one leg forward. Then I'm just gonna lift that leg up and bring it out to 45. Then I'm gonna lift it and bring it back center. Can I balance on my bottom leg? Open out to 45 and back to center. 1 more, open out to 45, stay on 45. Now, you're gonna drop that front hip and kind of let it roll, digging into that front heel, and I'm letting my back hip crease. So I'm not collapsing. I'm really still strong in this as I go forward and back. Again, 3 times. 2, 3. Then when you come forward, instead of bringing leg forward and down, you're going to bring it back and underneath you. Now we're going to bring the other leg forward. See if you could balance on this other leg, open out. Could you lift it, balance, bring it forward. Lift it up, open it out to 45. Come back to center. Then you're going to open to that 45 and you're going to go out. And that 45-degree diagonal, letting your hips move in this new direction, right? Lots of different directions for the hips. and 3. Then you're going to circle that leg around and underneath you, and you're going to come to your hands and knees, taking your weight behind your knee. Hang on to that weight, hands underneath the chest or underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, head, chest, belly nice and lifted. So when we do this, we're not trying to yo-yo our spine all around. We're going to keep our trunk pretty stable. Then you're going to lift that leg up, hanging onto that weight, and you're just going to bring it forward towards the chest and then lift it up for 1. And I am allowing myself to have some level of swing in balance with my trunk stability, right? So it's not static. It's not everything's kind of moving, but it's the idea of, can I stabilize against that movement, which does not mean that you are a statue in one part and only moving in another part. It's the balance. 3 more. Breathing. 2 and 1. Switch sides. So you just go around and you switch to the other side. All right. Head, chest, belly away from the mat. You lift that leg up and you bring it forward. So I'm bringing my knee towards my navel, towards my chest, and then I lift. 1. That's number 2, actually. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 more, 10, bringing that down. From here, you're going to take one leg out to the side. And I'm going to spin around just for the nature of the video, but you can just stay where you are. Take one leg out to the side with the toes pointed forward, the hands down on the ground. So you were just in your hands and knees, you took one leg out to the side, you're there. Here, you're going to shift back and forth 3 times. 2, 3. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab that weight and you're going to see, can you pull with the hand of the straight leg. You're going to row that arm back without the shoulder hunching forward. Just squeeze the back of the armpit, the back of the arm. Still my head, chest, and belly are light. Rowing 1. Again, 3s. 2, 3. Hold there. Press through that bottom arm and allow yourself to rotate and reach up. Bend the elbow, come back to center, lower down. 2 more like that. Rowing, rotate, reach. Coming back and down. Rowing, rotate, reach. Coming back down. Bring the weight pretty close to that bottom leg. Kind of sit back a little bit in that bottom leg, and you're going to grab your weight and bring it to your chest. You could grab it sideways, whatever brings it closest to you. And you're going to hinge, and then you're going to work on coming upright. Again, I'm working in getting the strength of really getting my legs underneath my pelvis without my spine kind of bowing too much. 2, you guessed it, there's 3. Coming up on this 3rd one. Now, this weight can go down or it can stay in the straight leg arm. The other leg arm is going to find the ground. And again, this is not a side bend. I'm going to hinge in that bottom hip. I'm going to use my top leg to kind of help me. I'm going to see, can I come down? Now, you may want to take your weight down and grab it. You may want yoga blocks. You may want whatever you want to prop yourself up. This is a lot of work in your bottom leg. And you're going to flex your top foot. You're going to reach that foot and you're just going to lower and lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, hold there. Now can you keep everything centered and stable as you go forward, kicking your leg forward? Maybe you point as you bring it back. Breathing forward and back. Breathing forward and back. Forward and back. 1 more forward and back. Now from there, you're going to bend what is now the straight leg underneath you, but you want to reach up, reach up, reach up, have this moment of balance. Bring that leg underneath you. Take your weight into your other hand. Take a moment to bring your weight all the way down, back to hands and knees. Take the other leg back out to the side and go back and forth. 3, 2, 1. Finding a happy medium. Take the weight in that straight leg arm and row for 3 and 2 and 1. Hold on that row. Press to the bottom arm to rotate. Then you reach. You bring it back down, center, and then you row, you rotate, and you reach. You come back down. You row, you rotate, you reach, you come back down. You bring the weight close to that bottom leg. You adjust your grip to whatever grip's right for you, and you work with this bottom hip to come upright. 3 times we go down and up, down and up, down and up. That straight leg arm goes up. You hinge in the bottom hip, not in your spine. As you start to go over, there's a moment where you have to balance and then fall, and then you flex that foot and you lower and lift for 5, for 2, I just missed my count, 3, and 2, and 1. Stay there. Flex and kick forward, point and come back. Or maybe you point the whole time, or maybe you flex the whole time. Maybe it's too much to think point flex. Maybe you're just like, I'm picking one, I'm sticking with it. Belly's working, bottom hip. This bottom hip doesn't love to do this, but we're working on it. And one more. And then you've got to balance as you lift up, bringing that top leg underneath you. Bend that arm in and bring the weight to one end of your mat. From there, take your hands down. Walk your hands out so that you've got a hand on either side of your weight. Walk your knees back and have your feet as wide as your shoulders. Then press through the arms to shift back. Pull with the arms to bring the shoulders over the hands, and then reach through your heels to lift your knees up. Inner thighs are facing each other, so the pubic bone is reaching as long as the tailbone. The head and chest are lifted and reaching in opposition. One more breath there. Rock on the heels for 3, or the toes, I should say. 2, 1, and then bring your knees down, and you're done. So that is your next progression from just that gentle hip mobility, but just starting to play with how you can make the mobility into strengthening work, because you want to be balanced in your strength and your range of motion, not just super flexible, because otherwise you don't have a strong support system, and you really need much stronger legs than a lot of us even realize. All right, until next time, keep moving.